Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Washington County Board of Education meeting for April 23rd, 2013. We have a quorum present. We'll call the meeting to order. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. Next on the agenda is the introduction of guests, and we do have a guest in the audience that Ms. Crable would like to introduce.
So really exciting. Last month at our WCASC meeting, I didn't. Well, yes, I did. The Student Council elected next year's SMOB, so we have him in the audience. This is Jessen. He's from Barbara Ingram, and he will be sitting where I am in a few months.
I'm sorry, what's his full name?
Jessen Grunendijk. Did I say it right? Grunendijk.
Jessen Grunendijk. Well, welcome. It's nice to have you here. We look forward to having you be part of our meetings. The approval of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
So moved, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Ridenhour. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Brightman. Are there any comments or additions or amendments? Seeing none, the questions on the approval of the agenda. All those in favor? Are there any opposed? The motion passes 7-0 and the student concurs. Public comment is next. We have two individuals signed up to speak. First is Mr. Willie Conyers. Mr. Conyers? So our policy says each guest is allowed up to 5 minutes to speak or so. Mr. Bailey here is our timekeeper. If you get close to 5 minutes, he will let me know. And we won't cut you off in the middle of the sentence or anything. But we look forward to hearing from you. Thank you, Mr. Conyers, for coming. The floor is yours.
First of all, I'd like to bring greetings to Dr. Wilcox, President Harding, members of the board, senior staff. My name is Willie Conyers. I'm a citizen of Washington County. I reside at 1040 Security Road. I consider myself as a stakeholder, being that I have a son who is a 9th grader at North Hagerstown High School. And along with that, I consider myself a stakeholder, being that I am a Washington County retired teacher, as well as a taxpayer and co-owner of A&W Enterprises, LLC. I would like to, first of all, thank you for name, and this, I would like to speak on the school naming policy. First of all, I'd just like to thank the board members for your action of naming the school in honor of Mrs. Ruth Monroe. And the reason why I'm supporting that is I find the policy written in its present form to be okay. If there needs to be some tweaking of the policy, then that's fine. Tweak it. But I just want to support the board's action of naming the school and supporting the way the policy is presently written. And I understand with the passing of time, things have to change. Also, in addition to this, in about, I guess it's about 1981, prior to my being hired as a teacher in Washington County, I met the late Ruth Monroe. She became my mentor. She taught me what works in Washington County as far as being a community activist and what doesn't work. So over the years, I have to say that some of her wisdom that she departed on me was taken in by me, and it was some good information, and it was some good advice. So again, I'm just going to say to the board again, your action of naming that elementary school in her honor was something that was rightfully deserved as far as bestowing such an honor on a lady who I admire real deeply and who I'd worked with for over 20 years. So I'd like to just thank you for your action, and if I can be of any help to the vote in future meetings, just let me know. Again, I'm one of yours, and I'm one of your retired teachers. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Conyers. Next signed up to speak is Mr. David Hanlon. Mr. Hanlon?
Good evening.
Good evening.
President Hardings, Dr. Wilcox, members of the Board of Education, my name is David Hanlon, and I'm here representing the Rotary Club of Hagerstown. I have the pleasure of serving as chairman of the Rotary Literacy Initiative Task Force. In September 2011, the Rotary Club of Hagerstown established our task force and gave it the charge to advocate for community-wide collaboration, to increase the number of students entering school ready to learn, and to decrease the number of children, elementary students, experiencing summer learning loss. Last May, the Rotary Literacy Task Force hosted a summit of concerned individuals and representatives who are interested in the well-being of our community's children. Several members of the elected Board of Education were among the 128 people that were registered for that event. The community learned that 22% of the children entering kindergarten did not possess the expected level of literacy and language skills, and thus are not ready to learn by state MSDE standards. Our community's children also fit the profile where many of them, far too many of them, experience summer learning loss of as much as 25% of what they learned the previous year. Out of that task force came a number of approaches, and Dr. Wilcox and his staff were among the first to come up with innovative efforts to address these two concerns. The central office designed the summer learning camps for rising second graders, and the principal and staff of Ruth Ann Monroe Primary School, working with the task force, have come up with a model that research suggests will benefit, a model for helping children who struggle with reading and creating an environment where reading is central to their lives. These are only two examples of several that have come under your sponsorship, because there are others at work in the schools. Dozens of other organizations have heard the call for our community to do just one little thing. I just learned today of a decision by a leading not-for-profit to focus on one group of children that research suggests will benefit the most. This is a fundamental change, but not big. Not really big, but will have tremendous, tremendous impact. Now I'm here to announce that once again, the Rotary Task Force is conducting a second summit on early childhood literacy. The children of today are the workforce of tomorrow. And in part because of this, we are pleased to announce that Volvo Group is coming on board as corporate sponsor for the summit. And they believe in this effort. Tonight I'm here to invite you to join your fellow citizens at the second Rotary Summit on Early Childhood Literacy. It's being held on Friday, May 3rd at the Merle Elliott Center at Hagerstown Community College, starting at 8 a.m. We promise to have you out by 1:45. We aim to foster new ideas and encourage collaboration between organizations to develop new linkages that haven't heretofore existed. And for you who are members of the community, registration is necessary because space is limited. Anyone who's interested, please visit our website to register at HagerstownLiteracyInitiative.org. And we think out of this event will come additional steps that will help our children live better, fuller lives as adult citizens. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Hanlon. Board member response to public comment. Is there anybody who wishes to offer comment? I'll just say it's particularly interesting to me here, the sort of the parallel in between our two speakers. First, Mr. Conyers, who clearly was affected by somebody who, through the force of volunteer and community involvement, had an impact on his life. And thank you, Mr. Conyers, for sharing your story with us, and thank you for your service to our school system. But through somebody's volunteering and reaching out, touched his life and allowed him to have an impact on people's lives that he may not have had that individual not reached out. And then we have Mr. Hanlon, who is the current generation's community activist volunteer, who's reaching out to try to have an impact on the kids' lives of tomorrow. So perhaps through Mr. Hanlon's work, 25 years from now, there will be somebody coming to the Board of Education talking about the impact that literacy or somebody had on him, the way Mr. Conyers just talked about the impact that Ms. Monroe had on him. So thanks to both of you for your involvement in the community, and thanks for coming to share your stories with us.
Mr. Hardings, may I
Yes.
make a comment, please?
Sure, of course.
Mr. Hanlon, I'd like to let you know that I registered yesterday for the summit. I was not able to attend the first one, and I have regretted that. I was not in the area at the time, and I look forward to attending the second one, and wish you all the best with your attendance at that summit. I hope to see my colleagues there. I know I'll see you there.
Perhaps not. I think I'm around. But I will, if I may, Justin. This is an event that the school system embraces fully. We want to be engaged, not just because of Dave's magnetism and charisma, but because of the Rotary and of the service clubs that are kind of banding together to affect children in a positive way. So I would encourage board members to attend if you can, but I also know that you support the efforts of the Rotary and of these organizations in many other ways. So, David, we look forward to great things going forward, and I know we'll have many administrators who will be joining you there.
Next on the agenda is the roof replacement at Fountaindale Elementary School. Oh, I'm sorry. I skipped right over the minutes.
Go ahead and sit down.
One shake. Let's see if
Mr. President, I would like to move for the adoption of minutes from the closed session held on Tuesday, April the 2nd, 2013, and minutes from a business meeting held on the same date.
Thank you, Mr. Bailey. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Fisher. Are there any amendments or comments? Seeing none, the questions on the approval of the minutes. All those in favor? Are there any opposed? Motion carries 7-0, and the student concurs. Now, since Mr. Bailey's kept me on my agenda, consideration of the roof replacement for Fountaindale Elementary School.
Thank
Mrs.
you,
Freeman.
Dr. Hardings, for allowing me to sit down early. And I'm here this evening with Rob Rones. We have a bid to present, only one this evening, for your consideration. This is the bid for the roof replacement at Fountaindale Elementary School. The contractor would replace the existing roof on the building with a new hot-applied hybrid composite asphalt roof system. The project would be complete, including wood blocking, curbing, ladder, and mechanical roof specialties. The project is partially funded by the state of Maryland, so it was bid with minority business enterprise participation procedures and prevailing wage rates as established by the Maryland Department of Labor are applicable to this job. The project will be undertaken this summer and will be completed by August 17th of 2013. The Procurement Review Committee discussed these bids at a recent meeting and is recommending award to Heidler Roofing Services of Hagerstown. They're the lowest responsive and responsible bidder at a total cost of $1,145,720. And the contract would include unit rates for regulating any additional or subtracting some labor and material costs due to unforeseen conditions on the roof. And we're here if you have any questions.
Is there a motion to approve bid 2013-38?
So moved, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Ridenhour. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Brightman. Comments or questions for Mrs. Freeman? Seeing none, the questions on Mr. Ridenhour's motion to approve the contract. All those in favor? Are there any opposed? The motion carries 7-0, and the student concurs.
Thank you very
Thank you,
much.
Mrs. Freeman. Next is personnel action. Ms. Francisco.
Dr. Hardings, members of the board, Dr. Wilcox, as we discussed in closed session, there are several staff changes for your consideration tonight.
Thank you, Ms. Francisco. Is there a motion to approve the personnel actions recommended by staff?
So moved.
Thank you, Mrs. Fisher. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Bailey. Are there any comments or questions? Questions on the approval of the personnel actions? All those in favor? Are there any opposed? The motion carries 7-0, and the student abstains. Thank you, Ms. Francisco. Next would be reports to the board. We don't have reports to the board. Mrs. Brightman, I know, went to a MABE Legislative Committee meeting yesterday, and unless there's objection from any of the board members, since we did approve the agenda, would you like to give an update on what you learned yesterday?
I'm happy to do that. I can wait till the next business meeting, but we do have a few minutes if it's okay. Briefly, a review of Thornton funding formula, which is based on adequacy and equity, will begin in 2014, and they'll be testing the alignment between budget and policy. So that should be something that we would want to follow, and I know MABE is going to be very much a part of that discussion going forward. We should all anticipate issues coming back with the maintenance of effort funding as enrollments throughout the state actually start declining with many districts. Maintenance of effort is basically a flat funding, and it's based on enrollment. So as enrollments decline, funding declines. And there are no new funding sources available certainly at most local levels at this point. So that should be a concern. An update on the Prince George's County change with, I think most people have been aware of that in the newspaper, with the change with the power structure and system of the local Board of Ed there. They are going to be obtaining signatures. They've started a petition, and if they're able to get 8,000 signatures, which my assumption is that wouldn't be hard to get in PG County, they can delay the legislation till 2014. And so that would change the outcome of that entire legislative, the last 2 weeks. I know one of the board members was there, and she said she still to this day resents the fact that this legislation was dropped very late in the session on Good Friday, and a big surprise for everyone. Let's see. There was the governor also put in a $3.5 million in general obligation bonds for non-public school construction. So that's a concern that'll be precedent setting. It's basically putting CIP funding for charter schools. So we can expect that to move forward and to possibly grow. Baltimore Construction Initiative will see 15 new schools and renovation of up to 40 schools in the next 10 years. There is concern that at some point that may cost other school districts throughout the state CIP money. There is a task force that was legislated that will be expected to recommend that prevailing wages must be used for all future CIP throughout the state. QZAB funds can now be used by charters and breakthrough centers, so that's sort of a new touch. The college readiness legislation that did go through, there was discussion that it was supported by the National Governors Association and the Southern Regional Education Association, which are financially backed by Pearson and Gates Foundation. And there is some concern that that connection will be pushing online transition remedial courses. So and also pushing the middle college process. In PG County, they're actually doing a charter school from 6th to 12th grade where students graduating will have an AA degree that will be delivered through an online e-learning component. It's called Clicks and Bricks, which is sort of an interesting way of thinking of it. And it does tend to, I guess one of the main concerns we discussed is it ignores the concept of many of our community colleges providing tech certification, and it's pushing the associate degree over those certifications. So also a Commission on Special Ed Access and Equity, which will probably be recommending legislation in 2014. Also, there is a task force set up with backing from the state chamber, to delay school opening until after Labor Day, and that seems to be gathering momentum. Also, a new piece of legislation that Open Meetings Act training, each public body, including Board of Eds, must designate one individual to receive open meeting training. So those are just some of the highlights, and I'll share some others as it goes on. I'm headed back tomorrow to Annapolis. Thank you for the
Great.
time.
We've got Ms. Cade coming in 2 weeks to our meeting,
Yes.
so I'm sure that'll supplement much of what you've said. Thank you, Mrs. Brightman, for briefing us on all things Annapolis. There's no further business before the board. I believe we're adjourned. Thank you, everybody.